Monica Felton, Certified Financial Planner from Scottsdale, Arizona, here to talk about amortization literacy. So let's look at a $50,000 student loan debt at 5.5 interest over 10 years. So our goal is, or the question we have to ask, is how do we calculate how much interest is in this $50,000? Is it really only 5.5%? And the answer with amortized math is no. So let's talk about that. So in the beginning of an amortized loan, and an amortized loan is anything like a mortgage, a car loan, even credit cards. So when we amortize in that first payment, we'll just say first payment, what you're going to see is tons of interest and very little principal. And then when we get to the end of the life of that amortized loan, what you see is most of it is principal and very little is interest. It really, in effect, has a seesaw effect from paying mostly interest and then over time, mostly principal. But this 5.5% doesn't really tell you the whole story. So how do we figure this out and learn the true interest costs in an amortized loan? So what we're going to do is we're going to take $50,000 and we're going to multiply that times the interest. So let's go ahead and do that. $50,000 times 5.5%. That actually is $2,750 a year. Now, for us to understand what a monthly interest would look like, we'll divide that number by 12. And what that tells us is the first payment for that student loan, we're going to have about $229 of interest. Now, what is our actual payment going to be? So let's go to an amortization calculator and let's go ahead and put in, I have $50,000 here, 10 years at 5.5% interest. And what this shows us is the monthly interest, or the monthly payment, is actually going to be $542.63. That's the payment with principal and interest. Now, we know that $229 of that first payment is actually going to be interest. So let's subtract that. Whoops. So let's say 54, the payment, subtract out the interest, and that's going to tell us what our principal payment is for that first payment. Now, what are we trying to identify? We're trying to identify the true cost, or what is the true interest that we're paying in the payment. So to get that number, we have to divide the interest by the payment, and that's going to give us our actual cost of interest. That's 42%. So what that means is that 42% of that first payment is actually interest. Now, why do I tell you that? I tell you that because what everyone has to realize is that with amortized math, the interest rate, it's really a factor that's used to determine the amount of interest that you're going to pay. Now, let's go back to this amortization. Now, what this says is that over the life of this loan, you are going to pay $15,115. But remember, the most of that interest comes in the front portion of the payment cycle. And then over time, it reduces. Now, why is this important? This is important because the sooner we can pay off your debt, the less interest we're going to pay. Your total cost of interest goes down. Now, I have people come to me all the time and say, hey, Monica, I have debt, but you know what? I have extra money. And so I want to invest that extra money. Well, what I have to help people understand is that your debt in this example is actually costing you 42%. So unless I can invest someplace where I'm making greater than 42% in this example, then I'm moving backwards. So what I say is if this line here is 0 and I am paying 42% in interest costs, but I could turn around and make, let me move up here, and I could make 5% in the stock market, I'm still going backwards. Even if I could make 10% in the stock market, I'm still going backwards. So the reality is we must understand our true cost of interest in our financial lives before we make any other financial decisions. Now, I have another video on debt-free for life and how we get debt-free and remain debt-free for life. I would encourage you to look into that, and that will also help you understand your true cost of interest on all of your debt. Monica Felton, Certified Financial Planner here in Scottsdale, Arizona. Thank you for your time.